With this presentation, we begin moving toward the modern and postmodern periods, in other words, towards the 20th and 21st centuries. And once more in the course, we come to a major turning point in the course and another major crisis for Western culture. A crisis which ranks right up there with the fall of Rome, the Dark Ages, bubonic plague, and that is the crisis of World War I, 1914 and 1918. World War I is a major crisis for Western culture. Actually, it's a number of different crises which all come together and coalesce into what today we call World War I. It's a big hit for the culture. And although we won't be talking about World War I in this presentation, there'll be a later presentation on World War I, it's important to note that we're heading into this time of crisis. And if that theory that we talked about way back when we talked about mannerism in the 16th century with the High Renaissance and the Northern Renaissance, if that theory is correct, that we tend to see absurdity in a culture when we have a culture that's in crisis. We tend to see things that are strange, odd, unusual, weird, things that don't make an awful lot of sense being done on purpose. Well, if we tend to see these things when we see a culture that's in crisis, well, as we get closer to this time of crisis, as we enter into the crisis of World War I, as we pass through the crisis, and as I'm going to be arguing in a later presentation, we're still in the middle of this crisis, that Western culture has never emerged from the crisis of World War I, then we can expect to see things that are strange, odd, unusual, and these things being done that don't make an awful lot of sense being done on purpose. A good place to start really talking about the rest of the semester is the painting you have on page 102 in your textbooks, figure 16.1 on page 102. The artist here, Edward Manet, and Luncheon on the Grass, or the French title there, Le Dîner sur l'Herbe, or something like that. Luncheon on the Grass, the most common translation of that French title. The painting here, you may not see today why this is the case, but the painting here is one of the most important paintings in the entire semester. And it's not important because of any kind of technique going on here or the subject matter or anything like that. What's important about the painting is what the artist says about the painting. When the painting was first exhibited, people immediately recognized a reference to a painting, to an earlier painting, a painting that we could have looked at earlier in the semester, a painting that comes out of the High Renaissance by an artist named Giorgione. On the screen, you see Giorgione's painting, Concert in the Countryside. Don't worry about getting Giorgione's name down here. Just look at the painting. Well, when this painting, Manet's painting, was first exhibited, people immediately recognized a reference back to this earlier painting. You see the similar scene. It's set outside. You have the two clothed men, the two nude women, the men in conversation, not paying much attention to the nude women. The painting you see on the screen, Concert in the Countryside, is an allegory about romantic love, music, nature. It's an odd setting. For example, over to the left-hand side, you see the woman pouring water into the well. You've never seen a woman pouring water into a well. Well, this is a rich allegory. Okay. Well, when this painting, Manet's painting, was first exhibited, people remembered the earlier painting, Giorgione's painting, and so they asked Manet, well, what's going on in this painting? What's the allegory in this painting? What does this painting mean? And what Manet says makes this painting important. Because Manet says the painting doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a painting. It doesn't tell a story. There's nothing here to think about. There's no rich allegory. It's just a painting. You look at it. If it catches your attention, you look at it for a minute, maybe a minute and a half. If it doesn't, then you move on and look at something else. But there's nothing here to think about. There's no story here. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to discuss. It's just a painting, and it doesn't mean anything. You may not see why, at this point in the course, that's such a significant thing for an artist to say about a painting. But one of the reactions to the crisis of World War I is to turn its back, for Western culture, to turn its back on everything that's come before in the course. Everything we've talked about all semester gets called into question. One of those things that gets called into question is that value of rationalism that comes out of the Athenian tradition. We're going to see by the end of the semester paintings intentionally designed for there to be no rational thought about them. that the paintings literally mean nothing, intentionally mean nothing. And moving away from a world where paintings are produced for people to think about to a world where paintings are produced for people to experience and intentionally not think about, well, you may not see why that's such a big deal at this point in the semester, but by the end of the semester, I think you'll see that this really is a significant painting for us, not because of any technique or anything like that, but because of what the artist says about